Okay, so I'm going to be talking to you about I have this burning energy right now to talk to you, to read to you from the Talking Skull. It's from The Mysteries of the Crystal Skulls by Chris Morton and Siri Louise Thomas. And if many of you have read my book, Recall, you know that I mentioned the Mitchell Hedges skull in the book. It's mentioned in the book. And I actually pushed back a client because this is how important this was to me, to talk to you about it. First of all, let me talk about the fact that human beings can and do transform. What you thought was true at the age of 23, you would laugh at the age of 53 or even 33. And you look back at yourself in awe to transformations. Now, just like I've done lives on the power of water and how water is a liquid quartz crystal, and you are 75% water, 75% liquid quartz crystal. This is why crystals are your ally in this evolution of your ascension, of you becoming more and more transcendental, okay? And so let me read to you from, again, the book, The Talking Skull. Just like the ancient legend, Dorland's theory suggested that the crystal skull may really be able to provide us with important information from the past. Mayans today apparently also believe this to be the case. Even the scientists at Hewlett-Packard recognize that natural quartz crystal has information storage capacities, and so we're entirely closed to the possibility that the crystal skull might have information programmed into it. Can I just say something? In the 1960s, I lived in Switzerland. I lived in Switzerland in Geneva for some time, and we would go from Lausanne to Vevey to Geneva. And there's a particular road, and I forgot what it is. It's a street where it's all the watchmakers. Davidoff was selling his cigars on that street. And on that street were all kinds of, you had, all the big watch manufacturers, the watches none of us in the 99% can afford. Okay, that gives you a clue. And in each of these openings, as you walk through the doorway, there would be 4-foot geodes of amethyst quartz crystal. Geodes. All of them had geodes. All of them. Because they were advertising that it was connected, that their watches were using quartz crystal technology. That was their nonverbal way of sharing that. Okay. When Chris and I were visiting Anna Mitchell Hedges and her father, I forgot his first name, found in British Honduras the top of the crystal. I believe it was the top of the Mitchell Hedges skull, hence why it's named that. And then I think like 6 months later, they found the mandible, the jaw, okay, that was like separate from the top of the crystal. Now, some people had said, and if you read my book, Recall, I mentioned that. And my book, Recall, is not for everyone, okay? It's really intense, raw, and whatever. Not to plug it, but to explain. And that it was a high priestess from Atlantis was the download some of these psychics were getting. In fact, all these psychics were getting a similar download, unbeknownst to each other, okay? And I'm about to read that. And in that, they found the information that, as you know, Atlantis had 2 factions. The evil factions, we're kind of seeing it play out today. Again, all the players are back. And there were 2 factions. The factions who were pursuing and connecting with the aspect of harnessing absolute power, okay? They no longer wanted to live in a 5D Ubuntu type of society. They wanted to subjugate people. They started that with the Lemurians, by the way, on the side note. Okay. And so she was a high priestess, 27. They've done some testings where they could tell the size, the markings of this crystal would have been, if it would, how do I explain this? That it would have been of a woman, and that it would have been of a woman who was in her 20s. So 27 was the number I remember from another book that I've read in the past. And she was beheaded, okay, by the opposing faction. And it was almost like the ancient ways of messages. A lot of the brutality that we now think is normal, like some New Agers are calling it the polarity of human behavior. Yeah, bullshit. That was all from Archon draconian influences. Okay, of war is not something that planet Earth really expected. It was a siege. It was like a virus in your computer. It was a virus that hit some of the members of this planet during the Atlantean age. Okay, and this virus created this strange thirst for iron and blood. Kali Yuga. So Kali Yuga was coming into play, the age of destruction and of sorrow and of famine and pestilence and war. Okay. And so they send the head back, which is ancient shit. Usually if a messenger came, you would send the head back saying, yeah, got your message. It's a fucking no. And they sent her head back, and the priests and priestesses of the righteous, I'm going to call it like that, of the Atlanteans of light, I'm going to say that, okay, to give you contrast, did a ceremony to crystallize her skull, and then to drop codes of information into her skull, okay, because now it's transformed from a human bone and marrow skull to a crystal skull, alchemicalizing the bones into quartz crystal, and then infused it with information about what had happened, okay? So now hopefully I've set it up. So now let me read. Let me continue. When Chris and I were visiting Anna Mitchell Hedges, we had already met a woman who said she knew how to access the information inside the skull. Like Frank Dorland, she claimed conventional scientists had failed because they were using the wrong approach. She said the secret of the skull could only be uncovered using the technology of the mind. Third eye. I'm adding that. We were somewhat skeptical, but curious nonetheless. If this was really possible, what might we find? Perhaps secret knowledge that had been buried in this crystal storehouse for thousands of years. Perhaps the hidden wisdom of esoteric societies that had long since vanished from the surface of the earth, or some ancient formula, now long forgotten, left behind by the mathematical geniuses of Mesoamerica, or even the secrets of the Mayan cosmos, the knowledge of the ancients who understood the movement of the planets and the stars. As we sat in Anna's small living room gazing at the skull, with its smooth apparent surface, let me stop here, with its smooth apparent surface. Now let me explain something to you. When they actually did a surface review of the skull, okay, they found no tool marks. Now, a lot of the debunkers have said that that's a lie. But when you see the crystal skull, when you see pictures of the Mitchell Hedges skull, I will tell you something. You don't see a fucking inclusion. You don't want to see any shades. You don't see any milky, cloudy deposits. And you do not see marks. You could say to me, well, it's a photo. Why would you see it? And I would say to you, yes, but some of the pictures are underneath a light, which would show something. Do you understand? I mean, sure, today you have crystals that are polished, and they're usually polished in stone. But to carve it out to that level of detail, just go look at it. If you're on your computer right now, look up Mitchell Hedges skull. And you'll see that you've never seen a skull crystal like that. Now, a lot of skulls today that you'll buy for fucking on Etsy for $50 are, some of them are, what is it called? Lab-made crystals, lab-made. And they lie. They don't tell you it's lab-made. Okay, let me continue. We said at Anna, okay, so we were sitting, it felt as if we were sitting in front of some strange computer, but without the right password to log in. Would we be able to plug into this ancient internet, let alone surf its multiple worlds? How could we extract the secrets said to lie hidden deep within its quartz crystal structure? We awaited with interest the arrival of Carol Wilson, the woman who claimed to actually be able to do this. Then Anna revealed that Carol was in fact one of Canada's best known psychics. Initially, I was skeptical. You see this? Initially, I was skeptical. I keep saying that because I am so sick to death of skeptics, because it doesn't show your intelligence. No, does it show your discernment. You're not tapping into third eye. Skepticism isn't intuition. Intuition doesn't lie. Intuition tells you, oh yeah, this is bogus shit. right? There are people that are in the past who formed the New Age who I know that were full of shit. There's some political people that I knew 2 years ago were shit, and when I first said they were shit, I was told you're an asshole, you're fucking, you're jealous, or whatever they were coming up with, and I intuitively knew they were full of shit. And guess what? I was right. My intuition was correct. Intuition does not need data, does not need numbers, does not need stats. It knows. It's called the unspoken knowing. And so skeptics want data, stats. By the way, stats are lies. You can totally fucking work with stats. It could be in your favor or against your favor, and you can do it. Okay? So let me continue. It's kind of like a debater saying, let me debate you on the existence of God. Let me debate you, same debater. Let me debate you against God not existing. Okay? So skeptics, I have zero tolerance for, just so you know. And I'm saying this because I'm not here to convince skeptics. I'm here to give you other knowledge that I've read, that I've studied for since I was in my late 20s on this particular subject, by the way, on the quartz crystal skull. I've been insanely obsessed with this. Initially, I was skeptical. I've always had grave reservation about psychics. The notion had always conjured up in the image of an old woman dressed in gypsy-style clothing, sitting in a small tent, gazing into a glass ball and making up any old rubbish. A stereotype, obviously, but it was my belief that all such people really did was to tell people what they wanted to hear and then charge them for the privilege of being too easily duped. I wondered why we were about to meet such a charlatan. Let's continue. When Carol arrived, she turned out to be a quiet, well-dressed woman in her 50s with a very professional manner. I was somewhat surprised to find that she was accompanied by the former head of the Toronto Police Homicide Department. Hello? A lot of psychics are used to find people, either dead or alive. And this is like hush, hush, but it's done. Again, watch the movie Men Who Stared Goats. That's all I gotta say. I keep saying that movie again and again and again. It soon transpired that there had been many occasions when the local police had been investigating unresolved murder cases and where insufficient evidence or an absence of any leads had frustrated them. Once they had become so desperate that they called on Carol with the help of her psychic powers. In almost no time at all, the case was solved and the murderer brought to justice. Since then, the police had used Carol's services many a times and had managed to successfully solve a whole string of murder and missing persons cases. As Carol explained, dead people do a lot of talking, and she either hears them directly or can pick up information about them by working with objects which once belonged to them. This gives her psychic information about murder victims, which has almost without fail proved successful in explaining otherwise unsolved crimes. Carol now works closely with the police forces throughout the United States, Canada, and Britain. Indeed, her work proved so invaluable to the Toronto police force that she was now married to the chief detective who had been responsible for homicide investigation and missing persons cases. This was John Gordon Wilson, the man who was now accompanying her. Carol went on to describe her first encounter with the Mitchell Hedges skull. She had first seen it during the 1980s while on a visit to Anna's house with two friends who were planning to try to date the skull, although they were ultimately unsuccessful in their attempt. She had also heard some outlandish claims about the skull. And this is in quotation marks. It's a quote. Before I first saw the skull, I was half expecting something amazing to happen. Yet when I actually saw it, nothing did, or at least nothing seemed to. It felt such a disappointment. All the people I was with were saying, look at the light, look what's inside it. And I could see nothing. I thought it was a question of the emperor's new clothes. If you guys know the story, you know the story. And that there was really nothing extraordinary about the skull at all. But as I sat there, I found myself drifting off. My eyes were closed and I felt very sleepy. And the next thing I knew, everything was saying to me, that was fantastic, how amazing. Only afterwards did I discover that I had gone into a trance and had spent the last 2 hours conveying information from the skull, the message of the skull, if you like, and I couldn't remember a word of it. I just got chills reading this to you. After that, Carol had continued to work with the skull on a regular basis. She was somehow able to access what Anna's nephew Jimmy described as incredible information. Once Carol had logged onto the system, he said the material seemed almost unending. Reams and reams of data. But the information was of such a peculiar and awesome nature that they were pretty convinced that most people were probably not ready to hear such phenomenal material at the time. And they're correct. They're correct. All I need to point, if Yeshua walked on the streets today, in the way he wore clothes in ancient Palestine 2,000 years ago, he would be treated like shit. Let's not fucking act like he would not. Let's not act. So they're correct. Okay, let's continue. Carol explained that for several years, she had not been willing to make any of her findings public. Yeah, it's fucking frightening, okay? Although most of the material had been carefully transcribed and recorded, she had felt most people would simply find it too unusual, too hard to accept, or too out of this world. Then she started to make her work known by writing and self-publishing a book called The Skull Speaks. Now she and Anna and Jimmy and her husband John all felt the time was right to start to share some of this information with a wider audience. The work Carol was about to perform with the crystal skull is known as channeling. As she explained, this is a technique commonly used by psychics and mediums, whereby the psychic's individual allows themselves to be used as a channel for spirit entities or souls from other dimensions to communicate. I actually push back an appointment I had with a client because I was directed to this book. I was minding my own fucking business making tea, about to get ready for this session, and asked this client for another hour to do this live when I was literally told to grab this book, swear to God, and opened it to this page, which is page, hang on, let me tell you. It's chapter 7, page 60, The Talking Skull, to read it to you. Why? Because some of you need to hear it. Why? Only you know. Only you know. And the limitations of your thought patterns is probably what's supposed to be breached right now. And you need to not fucking buy 20 fucking crystals. Stop doing that shit. It's not stamps. These are your allies. You need to pick crystals as your particular allies. Do you understand? And you need to take it seriously. I have a crystal skull that actually sat next to the Mitchell Hedges skull. It's owned by a man now, okay, in Malibu. And it sat next to that skull for like 2 weeks. I was so excited. I couldn't even believe it. I couldn't even afford it, but I bought it. I sleep with that skull. I put in the moon and the sun. I have like very limited amounts of quartz crystal. I kid you not. Okay, so these become your allies, and they are like water. They carry information from time immemorial. They were earthed from the caves of this planet. Water contains information. Your crystal skulls that were being formed, I don't know, 1 million years ago are now in the palms of your hands. That's why I'm irritated, to be honest with you, by the way crystal skulls are made into little turtles and little fishies and little unicorn. I mean, I'm so irritated by this shit. But what I will say is that when you buy yourself a raw crystal that speaks to you, it speaks to you. It's your ally. And if you lose it, it belongs to someone else now. It's done its work for you. Do you understand? So, and if you lose it, it belongs to someone else now. It's done its work for you. Do you understand? So, science with your crystal is to actually talk to it like it's a friend. And you're going to ask it to give you and to download information. That's why you put the crystal that you've chosen on your root chakra, in all the chakras, in your third eye, at the top of your crown chakra, things of that nature, and you work with that crystal. Or maybe you have 3 or 4 allies, okay? And then you have other crystals that you put in your bra or your pocket if you're a man, and you keep them as protectors, right? Okay. As she explained, this is a technique commonly used by psychics and mediums, whereby the psychic individual allows themselves to be used as a channel for spirit entities or souls from other dimensions to communicate. Carol also told us that there are other dimensions are not physical in the same way as the dimension that we call normal reality, quote unquote, but exists in parallels to our everyday world. Yeah, that's why kids see things. There are other realms that are usually invisible to us during normal waking consciousness, but in altered state of consciousness through meditation. Why do I keep telling you guys to meditate? Why? Through meditation. Through a channel can gain access, a trance through them. Through this process, the channel can communicate with the being that exists in these other dimensions, the spirits, the ancestors, and the dead. And I don't like the term. Again, they're writing in a very 1970s, 1980s way. It's not the dead. But I mean, I guess they're trying to, I don't know, dumb it down. It's not the dead. It's the souls that you love that have gone to the other side that are, and when I say the other side, they're literally in another room and you can't see them and that door is not open to you. But you can communicate with them even though they're in another room. You can communicate with them telepathically, visually, and so forth. And this is why as you meditate every day, you hone those skills as you work on your chakras and so forth. These entities can be from the past or the future, but in the other dimensions, our normal physical rules, such as linear time, do not apply. The technique of channeling involves a channel or medium putting themselves into an altered state of consciousness or trance-like state in order to become a bridge between these worlds and our own. The channel has to suppress their own normal waking state of consciousness, their own ego, their own sense of identity or self-sufficiently to allow the consciousness of the non-physical being or spirit entity to enter their body and mind. I don't agree with that. I've had an entity enter my body once in my life, and they had just died. And I'm going to talk about this. I'm not going to tell you who it is because I'm not here to start being, she psychically downloads famous people. This person happened to have been famous. I just heard of their death. I went into a meditation because I was kind of fucking horrified, to be honest. And I went into deep meditation that Dr. Joe Dispenza has taught. It's like a deep going into meditation of the void. And so I went into the void. And in that void, suddenly out of nowhere, okay, this person probably had died, I'd say, an hour before. About an hour after, excuse me. And I had sat in meditation, and I think it's because they were like, I don't know, probably 2 hours away from where I live. And maybe I was the only one that did it. And this soul entered my body. Swear to God, it's the only time it's ever happened. Literally entered my body and came in, I'd say pissed off, kind of frustrated, pissed off. They were still in the physical realm, but no one was like in the state of receiving. So they came in and there they were. I was like, holy fuck. Okay. And the void, it's too many details, but it blew my mind. Let's just put it that way. Afterwards, I saged myself again, and I sat with this, and the way they showed me to themselves was not how I remembered them because I hadn't seen them in I'm not a fan of certain things this person did, so I never followed them. It was weird. So there was no alliance. I was not a fan. None of that shit was happening. And the person who I saw, I was like, who is that? I think I know who this is. And suddenly it hit me who it was. I mean, through the moment where I was literally, they were in my body, and it felt like a hit. Like it entered to not control me, not to harm me, anything like that, but to express what they were going through. Okay. And so when I went back and looked, I went, holy fuck, that's him, but he now has a beard. Oh my God, I haven't seen him since. I never saw him with a beard, but he showed himself with a beard. That was so weird. Again, I won't talk about who it was because that's not here or there, and I'm not trying to get attention on that, but I am going to say that was fucking weird. And it was weird, and it made me understand how it can happen out of, and the thing is, I was never scared. It didn't scare me. What it did is, I was in awe. I was in absolute awe over that happening. And I've never spoken it publicly because it's of who it was or whatever. Not because I'm trying to be mysterious, not at all. Because I don't want that kind of attention. I really don't. It's done now. It's been years. It doesn't matter. They're gone. Does that make sense? But it was from my own experience. and that soul's experience, and me helping them and keep going. Like, don't stay here. Don't do this. Don't get yourself trapped in the void. Create something in the void. Create where you want to go. Create where you want your souls to go. And that was it. Okay. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so let me continue. The visiting spirit entity is then able to use the channel's body, movement, and voice to communicate, both during and after channeling. The channel is usually completely unaware of what they have said and done when they have been in this altered state, but much like a person who has been under the influence of hypnotism. Okay, I disagree with her because I'm a hypnosis specialist, and I can tell you're not under the influence of shit. Okay, the way we're taught with integrity, that you can take a tinkle in between your session and still go back under. I'm just letting you know because I don't want you to be afraid of being hypnotized. Okay, now but you have to trust who you allow to have access to you to use hypnosis on you. Okay, that's called common sense, streetwise spiritual wisdom. You don't let some hack get access to your fucking consciousness ever. None other. Okay, I mean, which really irritates me that people are using it left and right. You want to make sure you protect your energies. You want to be aware of your consciousness. You are aware of your consciousness. You are aware of what's coming through. But the portals of the ego have been, diluted, so your soul and your higher soul can open its portals to show you, for example, past lives and what have you. So her saying that, no, I disagree. But Carol explained that there's nothing morbid about what she does. What I do is not paranormal or supernatural. In fact, this whole process is actually quite natural and was used on almost everyday basis by many societies prior to our own. Yes. As I sat listening to this extraordinary woman describing this strange process, I thought about the fact that police departments took her work so seriously that she was now working on cases on an international basis. It struck me as rather peculiar that those involved in solving criminal cases of the most distressed kind should act upon her advice. But this was a woman who believed she could communicate with a chunk of crystal. I couldn't quite come to terms with it. Can you imagine? Now, to respect her work, because I have to bow to her knowledge, is hypnosis done in a maniacal way, in a nefarious way, will strip you of any memory. Okay, that's why I'm telling you, when you go into a hypnosis, don't just go with a hack job. Just make sure you trust them with 10 grand on the table. Your child, you know that they'll never harm anything you give them. You got to trust people with that. You don't just let anybody do this. I remember when I was in training to be a hypnotherapist, a hypnosis specialist, I went ahead and I actually refused people from actually putting me under. I'm talking about colleagues, co-students who were training with me. I'd say, no, I'll pass, thank you. Because I didn't want their hands on my subconscious. I didn't want to give them the privilege of entering my realm. No fucking way. I didn't give a fuck. Okay? That should tell you something. I was not going to be a welcome mat to get my certification of completion. There was no way I was going to do it, not with anyone. And I think I remember my professor, Dr. Paul Aran, said, well, are you, and I was very candid, I don't trust this person at all. I'm sorry. Put me in another group. I don't want to be around that group. And he did. Okay, so don't let people have access. I don't care what you're doing for what reason. Protect your consciousness at all costs. So here he is talking about the fact that here's this woman, internationally renowned as a psychic, helping unsolved crime cases. And he's still fucking, it's like the ego of human beings is insane. So you can see why it took her a while to write about The Skull Speaks. I couldn't quite come to terms with it, is what he says. As these thoughts were going through my mind, Carol looked across at me and said, belief is a curious thing. Belief functions to maintain the status quo in your mind. It helps you to feel more secure. It's the same for everybody, but belief can be very narrow. It's like the here and the now. It doesn't like change. She added, you don't have to believe in what I do, because whatever you believe it or not, the crystal skull is a subtle and very powerful teacher. Okay? The plan was that Carol was going to channel the entity of the crystal skull and we would be able to ask a question. Carol requested that any questions we asked were to be very specific. She explained that the skull did behave a bit like a computer in that you had to give it very specific instructions and to be very clear about what you were asking. Otherwise, you might not get a very helpful answer. For example, someone once before had asked the skull what a skull was and had received the answer that it was a bony structure. She also warned that sometimes the skull anticipated the question in advance and told us not to be put off by this. Anna then placed the crystal skull on a small turntable so that Carol would be able to touch it from all angles and manipulate it as she wished during the channeling session. Carol sat down and the crystal skull was placed directly in front of her, where it glimmered softly in the lamplight. See plate 7. They have pictures of this too. Yeah, when you see the pictures, and they're black and white pictures. We're talking about, God knows when this book was. I think it was published probably in the late 80s. Okay, let me continue. Carol closed her eyes. She began altering her style of breathing and used a low hum to ease herself into the appropriate mental state. The whole room began to take on somewhat an eerie atmosphere of the kind you might expect during a seance. As Carol's gestures and postures changed, suddenly tense, she began to emit an incredibly high-pitched humming sound. Before I was even able to ask the first question, she began speaking in a strange, somewhat staccato voice with a very stilted use of the English language. I remember being struck by the fact that you could actually hear this new voice echoing strangely in the room. You seek to know the origin of this receptacle, which you call the crystal skull. I tell you that it was made many, many thousands of years ago by beings of higher intelligence. It was formed by a civilization before those you call the Maya, or level of civilization, as you say, at the time, far in advance of that which you now have by many factors. The speech was interrupted by a high-pitched humming and then continued. This receptacle contains the mind of many and the minds of one. It was not made using what you call the physical. It was molded into its present form by thought. The thought and knowledge are crystallized into this receptacle. This receptacle is thought process crystallized. Thus, the information was crystallized into this receptacle. We have put through form into pure language within that which you call the crystal skull. Much of the world that we created with our mind. Mind creates matter. You will understand this, and crystal technology will be given to those who understand it in more detail. That crystal is a living substance, and you can infuse mind with matter. So it seemed that the crystal skull had been made by an advanced civilization using thought, but it was all a little confusing to say the least. I was about to ask why the crystal had been shaped into the form of a skull, when the voice continued in the same manner. This receptacle is crystallized because you, within the third dimension, need to see, to hear, and to touch. Its form makes it easier for mind to attach to mind without what you'll call personality. But you respect the personality, the head, the enclosure of your brain. So this form of the receptacle has been guarded and guided for many an age. The earth life of this receptacle is 17,000 years and has been handed down from one generation to another, polished with sand and hair, and no harm will come to it. So the reason the crystal skull had been made into the shape of a skull was that it would be respected and cared for over the years. I was about to ask if there was any other crystal skulls, as the legend had said, but once more the mouth spoke before I was even able to open my mouth. You are seeking information as to the other receptacle of mind. There will be other receptacles found, for there are many. For no one man and no one mind were given all knowledge. Each of the receptacles contain the information of where the others are. We would give you one where we left markings upon the earth. Some have since suggested this may be the area of the Nazca line of Peru, although there are obviously many other alternative possibilities. And high in the mountains, there will be one of blue in the region you call South America. There will be another one found when the lost civilization that you call Atlantis rise to you. And we would urge you to explore the ocean bed. We would urge you to explore the discoveries in the area you call Bimini. But we will direct you. We will show you that which you would call a temple. This was an area of communication between Earth and other systems. When all receptacles are placed together, you will be keepers of wondrous knowledge. Light and sound will be the key. When the right vibration is produced, you will have the information you require. But the time is not yet. There are still some that have not yet been given form, and others which remain safely under your ocean bed. But you shall not find them all, as you say, as this time. It would be too dangerous for man to have this information too early in this evolution, because mankind will seek to better all the original destructions of our time. I did not fully understand all this somewhat cryptic information, but I was curious as to why the crystal skull had been made in the first place. Yet again, the voice anticipated my question. The receptacle has been given this form to encounter the mind of oneness and to reduce our desires for separation. Your mind seeks separation. We sought to leave you with the concept of oneness, but your mind seeks only separation, as you say. As you seek, so shall you find. And already the process of separation has begun. You have already begun the separation, but there will be more. You have a desire to separate that will lead you to your own destruction. Separation causes annihilation and death. We can already feel the influence of this separation as violence. There is much violence occurring within your planet. Violence against men, violence against nature, violence against the earth. Again, I didn't really understand these rather cryptic... Do you understand? What the fuck? I didn't understand? I'm sorry, can we get any clearer than this? How could this person... I'm like in shock. How can you not understand what was just said? It's not cryptic. It's clear as a bell. It's like, shall I pull out my Crayolas and a chalkboard and start drawing images? Hello? So, now remember, this is the author of this book. I didn't understand. So when Carol says the world is not ready, no shit. Because if this guy can't understand, imagine the consciousness in the 80s. I hate when people romanticize the 80s and the 90s. There's nothing to romanticize. Don't look back. Fuck that era. It was the era of confusion, the era of greed, the era of everyone wanted to be rich. Everyone wanted to hit the score, the big score. So how can he not understand? Did you understand what I just read? Because we're fucking living it. We understand that you come seeking and quest. Here, let me back up. Separation, separation, separation. Do you understand? We can't play these games, these racist games. These, you're that religion, there's my God and your God, and this bullshit. Oh, well, you have, can I touch your hair? The kind of disrespect of people with differences, racial differences. It's actually repulsing me to see that this has been so normalized that here we are on the edge of a precipice. That's what it gets you. This is what this crystal skull is saying. Your separation would lead to violence and more violence. It's very simple. Now listen, you cannot, if you have racism in you, I'm being straight up. Don't play, oh, I know I'm not, no. Sit with this. Sit with it. Okay, if you have fetishized certain people, sit with that. It's a form of racism. It's okay to fucking be honest. That's shadow work. That's real shadow work. There are straight men, quote unquote, who are homophobic. Why? Well, because they're not really straight, are they? And they hate. And they attack. You would think in the 21st century, we wouldn't have people in the closets. But I have a feeling we have more than we ever thought. And that's insane to me. Be honest about your sexuality. Be honest about your racism. Be honest about your beliefs of God and other people and how they pray. Be honest and sit with your shadows and rock into tears and release it. Okay? Stop your bullshit. It's okay. I've done it. I'm a woman of color. Do you think I haven't had these conversations with myself? Of course I have. Let's continue. We understand, so the crystal call answers, the crystal skull. We understand that you come seeking in quest of the beginning of man. We wish to tell you that your own origins were thought in form and that you have to cast your eyes up and not down. There will be many discoveries pointing to this acknowledgement within the next 5, 10, 15 years. And the beginning of what you call your civilization are over 15,000 years before the acknowledgement of that which you call Atlantis. She said 17,000 years was the crystal skull. So when they say it's 13,000 years ago, my mistake is I've said it too. It's more like 17,000 years. I'm going to add it to 23,000 years ago. I'm being told that. That's why 23 is such an interesting number. 23,000 years ago was the golden age of Atlantis. So the end would have been 17,000 years. For there's much evidence of our civilization still beneath our ocean. Yeah, and they have satellites, my friends, and they know and they've seen civilization beneath the ocean. Trust me. They just looked at what was below the Pyramid of Giza. There's a whole system. It wasn't just, whatever, little tunnels and little, no. It's a whole fucking very advanced system underneath the pyramids of Giza. So you don't believe me, they know what's in the ocean. They know the pyramids in the ocean, beneath the ocean. They know they've seen it. And they have not released that information. Already there are discoveries near Bimini, but there will be many more discoveries over the next 5, 10, 15 years, which will point you towards the right direction. There will be more discoveries in South America, in Australia, and Egypt, in that which you call your deserts. You will find much more knowledge. Yeah, the deserts. The deserts were, the Sahara was a complete oasis. It was an oasis. It was a complete jungle. What the fuck happened to Sahara, to become the Sahara as we know it? But you will find traces of our civilization through most parts of your land masses, and there is much beneath your seas, especially beneath the ocean, which you call the Atlantic. Well, of course, the Atlantic, the Indian, and that which you call the Dead Sea. They're closest to your Earth's surface, and soon will be discovered are remnants of our civilization. These discoveries will confuse and cause much disharmony, but they will be needed to reduce the mind of separation. Do you remember Indiana Jones and the Lost Art of the Covenant? You remember that movie? Those are the types of people who want to harness those kinds of relics of power. They haven't changed. The movie's interesting because they haven't changed. Change the frustrates into another cult, and there you go. Just saying. Hopefully you understand my code. But many of these discoveries will not be permitted at this time. No shit. Not shit. We can only permit that which will not cause too much havoc for your minds. We came to your Earth from a different world, from other dimensions. We came into this dimension. We came to experience needing to experience density. Yes, that was you. That was me. What's interesting is that we are those entities returned into human form. I've seen it in my Akashic readings for clients. I've seen it in myself. We wanted more density. Some of us didn't fucking know that once we hit this density, it'd be like walking through quicksand for thousands of incarnations. That would be a bitch of a thing to come back online with remembering our origins. That we didn't know that going into this density would wipe our files clean. Resetting the phone, resetting the computer to zero. We didn't know the price. That which we first heralded had nothing of the density of what you call a body. The life on this earth plane was primitive in form, but we took upon ourselves the physical form which is recognizable to you. We sought only to experience material density and to bring knowledge and enlightenment, but we did not confine ourselves to any one, what you call geographical location. There were many, and many of our relics and our teachings are still to be found scattered amidst your land masses and your sea masses. I was keen to know was these we, where that the voice of the skull seemed to be talking about when it continued. But there are still many among you who seek to find where is your universe we are found to be found. But still you cling to the idea that we are of the third dimension, and you still cannot grasp the idea that we are of the other dimensions beyond your rudimentary space-time relativity. Why do you think I said we should read Psyche and Singularity by Timothy Desmond? Because we have to understand the nature of the cosmos and how our souls were created, number one, and how our souls travel. We're nomads, my friends. We're nomads. We've always been nomadic. We are nomadic species, meaning soul light frequency. And we've traveled through various dimensions, various planets, various densities. Out of curiosity. Out of fun. Yeah, fucking fun. Making love to your beloved is fucking fun. Eating something fabulous is fun. Listening and creating high frequency music in other realms is fun. I've seen games on other realms and planets that were fun. And different types of experiences, from entering our souls into different densities of bodies, matters. It's fun. It's inspiring. We gather more data. And we are fractals of God. And the voice then proceeded to divulge some rather cryptic information about space and time. We would tell you that the essence of time is an illusion. Time has been created, in fact, by a higher intelligence as a form of control upon the brain and function of the body image. This is a safeguard against corruption of matter, but in essence is non-existence. Though thoughts exist independently of the body and brain, but time is the creation of matter, though it is without time. Time as a mechanism was introduced to material and current mind only, not to, though, or spirit, but to keep you bound within the third dimension, within the perimeters of the small planet you call Earth. We would urge you to explore such truth and understanding, that which the mind is capable of understanding, and not that which the brain is restricted to. Yeah, that's why I told many of you to read The Doors of Perception by Aldous Huxley, so you understand how the mind opens and closes. It can only take so much, and then it fucking blows a gasket. And this is why us meditating is a form of opening that funnel to the universal consciousness, to the Akashic realms, the library that is infinite. There's no end to the library of the great Akasha halls of learning and record keeping. Okay? It's infinite. So when you open your brain, when you understand the mechanics of this fucking little 3D brain, right? Well, think of it going from your Apple 4 to your Apple, whatever the fuck we're at now. They keep wanting to sell a new one every year. But like your Apple 14, your Apple 17, apparently. You're more and more on a higher realm. As you open your brain, your body moves with it. That's why you have such a thing as ascension symptoms. You have headaches. Your third eye fucking hurts, or your front temple hurts. You've got pain in the temples, pain in the frontal lobe, pain in the back of your neck. Your body feels lethargic. You're fucking exhausted. You're being slowed down to upgrade your body. Your body and your little brain has to fucking be in sync for the knowledge being downloaded into your system. Similarly, again, using the same analogy, we can't take the iPhone 14 software and download it into an i4 phone. It's not going to work. The hardware, aka your physical 3D body, is not a match to that shit. Does that make sense? It's a very phenomenal thing that's happening to us as you front and center in Technicolor. You're watching the shit show, and it's not happening to everyone. And that's not to say you're the chosen one. I will not kiss your ass. You're one of the volunteers. Okay? Just to be straight. All right. Time is related to you as a number. We offer you that number, and time has no depth. There are merely programmed into the current mind as safeguards to keep you in time and space. There are function not really of mind but of brain, and they are really a dysfunction of brain to keep you tied to the physical dimension of the three-dimensional world. The relativities you call number function of brain to keep you tied to the physical dimension of the three-dimensional world. The relativities you call number, time, and space are functions of the brain related only to the third dimension. This current mind keeps you a prisoner in time and space in the material physical world you call reality. But the delusion of time must remain for a period. Do you understand? This is extraordinary. It's funny how they play games with the Gregorian calendar and the Ethiopian calendar and the 13 months as a 28 days per month for 13 months, not 12. In a way, talk about female hate. I'm just going to say it, okay? I'm not here to fucking bash men. You know that. You know I've been a man. I've said it many, many times. And I was a good man and I was an asshole. Similarly, as a woman, I was good and I was an asshole. Okay. Okay. But the hate, let's be honest, the absolute rabid misogyny of males, many, to take a 28-day cycle that went with the moon and the woman's, blood moon, let's put it that way. This incredible physical manifestation of the cycles of time into 13 months instead of 12. That rabidness And the hate that we're seeing with, gropers and incels and red pillars, you guys need to get a fucking education, my friend. Get your ass an education and start understanding that this is not your only incarnation. This is not the end of your life after you drop your body. Get awakened. Why do you think I'm such insanely obsessed with people learning about reincarnation? Okay? And it was an agenda. This concept of reincarnation not being believed. Okay, that goes back to I'd say 2,200 years ago. Okay? While Buddha just died and people are learning about Buddha orally, right? And people are recognizing the concept of the Akashic, the Vedic scriptures, and so forth. Just shit that goes back thousands of years. It outranks any Western Judeo-Christian understanding, okay? And I'm a devotee of Yeshua, on the side note, just so you know. But I want a real relationship with these incredible avatars. I don't want to be spat or spitballed bullshit. Okay? And so that's where I'm coming from. Knowledge. I was just talking to a friend of mine about, listen to this. I'm going to stop for a minute. I'm going to go right into this. So I'm reading this book called Revelations of the Aramaic Jesus. Yes, because I've always believed that you can't take old scriptures and go Aramaic, Greek, Latin, and then what the fuck? There's a dilution here. It's common sense. So listen, please bear with me. And then we're going to go back to the crystal skull. I have about 17 minutes. So hang on. Let me read you this from that book. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. John 8:3-2. Listen to this. Let's go right to it. Listen to this. I'm just going to read it to you. It's not long. When or if Jesus said these words, he said them in Aramaic, one of several ancient Semitic languages rooted in thousands of years in Southwest Asian nomadic experience. In Yeshua's Aramaic, the word for truth, shara, means a light or clarity coming from the heart that leads one in the right direction for the moment. People who travel seasonally without any permanent dwelling concern themselves with finding such a light, an inner GPS. The word yida in Aramaic means to grasp or to hold something in one's hand so that one can use it. The word for free, nishar, points to burning or leaving things behind that one can no longer need. So through Aramaic, we can hear this saying and tell us, if you find a light, listen to this, okay? We've gone through, you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free to this. Aramaic to English, listen to this. If you find a light emanating from the heart, it will lead you in the right direction. You'll know what to hold on to and what to release. That's the actual proper translation of know the truth and it shall set you free. Let me repeat it. If you find a light emanating from the heart, that's your GPS, my friend. It will lead you in the right direction. You'll know what a light emanating from the heart. That's your GPS, my friend. It will lead you in the right direction. You'll know what to hold. Now let's go back to the crystal skull. Why did I read that? Because I want you to understand. Let go of the past bullshit you were taught that no longer serves you, and open your mind and your heart to greater expansive knowledge. That's why I read this, to kind of tell you, this is what we're going through. We're going through a massive clearing of shit, of dogma, of misogyny, of misogyny and misandry. We're going through massive shit. Okay? Misandry was developed from the ancient matriarchy that had to step off the high priestess platform and be subjugating. And then she became a cohort to the misogynist agenda. Not all women, obviously, but many, or else it wouldn't have worked for fucking 3,000 years. You don't think women were throwing rocks at women? So this evolution of understanding time and how time was ripped out of, our flow with the planet and the moon cycle and the blood cycle of the feminine and the sun and the eclipses and all the things. We literally walked into a cage, locked it, and threw the fucking key out into the nowhere. Right? And so now through our meditations and through our realization, thought become matter, those cages can dissolve. Literally collapsing these bars into sand. Collapsing. We have come now to warn you because the separation has already begun. Okay, well, we can look at the separation. Any supremacy is too much. A supremacy of any ideology causes a separation. It's common sense. The destruction is already beginning to take place. The mind of separation has taken hold, and some serious things have already taken place. For you, with your primitive knowledge, have already started something which you cannot be reversed. It was started through your scientists playing with and bending sound and light waves and that which you call particles into your atmosphere. You will have noticed that there are many destructive waves now hitting your planet. There will be more destruction brought about by atmospheric intervention, unusual weather patterns, and rapid climate change, and there will be movement in your land masses as well. We wish to tell you that your civilization has grossly misunderstood the use of light and sound and matter. That is why you have only uncovered that which is closer to you. But even now, your scientists and your government play with toys they do not understand. I'll stop there. I'll stop right there. Because, first of all, I have a client coming up. And two, knowledge and power. But knowledge is about looking at what you've been taught and realizing how people get brainwashed. It's so easy. It's fucking insane. It's insane. And to read multiple, my God, multiple types of books. Because when I tell you from the Aramaic, right? And it's translated directly from Aramaic, it's saying, let your heart be a GPS. And let go of what no longer makes sense. You're not a nun in a convent in the 16th century Italy where all you knew was your abbey, your nuns, the Mother Superior, and you were on your knees every day praying at 4 o'clock in the morning and bathing once a week to cold water, to spring water, and eating gruel. Why are we still fucking acting like we're in the 16th century? Why are we acting like this is 1880? The knowledge is everywhere. There are books everywhere. There are people like me talking about it everywhere. And you have to become a scholar to your own release from this toxic jail of limited thoughts. If you don't think like this, you're not one of us. Good. I don't want to be one of you. It's like, bye. I seriously don't want to be one of you. Okay? And you're seeing public figures awakening to a point. They're still holding on to their beads of prayer in a certain conscious fractal system that is still, they need, in other words, for them to awaken to a certain point, they need their buoy. They need their Linus blanket. They need it. And I will not be the person who says you're an asshole. I will not. I understand that people really need their belief system or else they can't, their brains will fucking boom. They'll have a nervous breakdown. A serious one. The kind where you can only deal with silence. And so I'm not here to force people, nor are you. You're not. That's not your job. To like beat someone into submission to believe in reincarnation and believe in that. But what I'm going to say to you, you have your own free will. Fucking do something, man. Wake the fuck up. Okay? Wake up. Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, reincarnation. I mean, that's mumbo jumbo. Why is that? Why? We have so much data on it. We have so much fucking information on it. This is insane. Why do you think that? And that's the problem. You're dealing with people who are, again, I go back to Plato's theory, Plato's parable of the cave, again and again. I have, if you look it up, I believe on my YouTube channel, you can actually see me tell you the story of Plato's. You probably have to go back to 2024. And I think it's an old man that's on my screen, my image thing. But Plato's parable of the cave, holy fuck. Again and again, that theme. It's like Plato. By the way, Plato, just on the side note of arrogance, you'll probably be more of a scholar than people with a fucking PhD. I'm not joking, because they are only learning what they're being taught to learn to pass their PhD, okay? To get their whatever doctorate or whatever master's or whatever, okay? I'm not putting people down on that way, but do not fucking put yourself down because you did not go to university. You have a library. If you don't, create one, both of Audible, audiobooks, and real books, books on eBay, books out of print. There are books that are out of print that I've bought that have given me such knowledge, books you can't fucking find. Okay, written, and then you basically intermarry that knowledge with other knowledge, and you start remembering. Okay, I'm gonna put that. You start remembering, and it's a soul's memory. It's a soul's memory that you can barely articulate into these words, using this mouth, using this limited language called English or French or Italian or Arabic or whatever, or Russian. It's almost like you have to sit telepathically with a friend doing the same type of work, and you just nod to each other because you just tell them. I just got chills saying that you get it, but there are no words. It's the unspoken knowing. It's you knowing how to read someone, and you have no fucking information. You've just read them, and you're like, oh yeah, we're done here. We're done. And then 2, 3, 4, or 5 years later, you find out you were right. But when you first hit that hit, you knew with no information, and you're like, what the fuck? Am I being judgmental? No, you got a download. And so when you read books like this, right, there'll be downloads of, yeah, that's not, you don't have to agree with everything that these people are saying. Remember, they're also limited. They're writing and saying this in the 1980s. Remember, she's channeling this through a brain system. It's kind of like a net. It's kind of like, a net that's grabbing what she can. That's why you have to read The Doors of Perception so you understand. You've got to read the Bhagavad Gita where Arjuna, his whole mind has to be blown out of the 3D, I'm going to call it 5D actually in this case, but 5D level of consciousness. Even his brain needs a fucking opening by Krishna because he doesn't understand the concept of infinite creation and universes and planets to understand what he's about to do on that battlefield. That's why that book is famous with some of the greatest minds ever, greatest poets, philosophers. They've all read the Bhagavad Gita, all of them. That you probably would say, wow, what a cool guy. And I'm saying guy because I've yet to meet a woman who is on that ilk. I'm sorry to say that. It makes me sad that we don't have more great women philosophers, but I will say this. Louise Hay started this whole self-help movement. She's the one that was publishing Wayne Dwyer, Deepak Chopra. I don't need to keep going on and on. She was the one. So the first one who birthed this true transcendental, metaphysical, esoteric line of publishing was really truly her. The New Age is collapsing because it's filled with charlatans, but it was built by charlatans. If you do your research, okay, it's kind of like the sleeping prophet Edgar Cayce. I was 17. I never liked him. I thought, what a racist piece of shit. Because a lot of his information was being filtered through his 3D brain of society's norm. That's why. You don't have to like move with the flow because people are saying, oh, you should like this for. No, I don't need to like shit. I like truth, and truth comes unfiltered, and there's no racism in truth. There never is. Truth has no racist agenda. It has no supremacist agenda. Never. Never. Okay, and this is something that we have to understand as separations happen. Well, what's really happening right now? And I'll leave you with this. There is a separation. Yes. There's nothing we can do about these people who are hell-bent on this ideologies of supremacy and separation and using violence to do so. Enjoy, my friends. They've done it for thousands of years. They've never really won. And most of us who are in the awakened path, right? And again, we need to realize that our work is to create the new earth. And there will be parallel, you could say, realities and dimensions. There are right now parallel various levels of dimensional frequency right now as we speak. Okay? So when you look in New Earth, and I keep saying that again and again and again, many people laugh. Why do you think I don't have that many followers? Let's be honest, right? I should have a lot more. It's because what I'm saying is about self-responsibility. It's not a popular thing. You are responsible. It's called self-realization. Again, bowing to Paramahansa Yogananda, it's called self-realization for a fucking reason. You listen to people like me, but then you self-realize with your own global, universal, transcendental truth. Again, eat the fish and throw away the bones. Okay? So anyway, I'm going to go. I have to. I wish I could stay, but I'm really happy that I was able to share this. I will go ahead and upload this on. Oh, Francine, thank you. Rock on, sister. Love that. Thank you, all of you. Mama Yeti, thank you for being here. It's always good to see you. Scorpio, thank you for being here. Alice Frequency, awesome. And I can't, you've got a bobbin, but I thank you for all the likes. I'm sorry, because when I talk, I download part of it, so I can't really see. I don't look at the phone. Okay, so this was cool. Thank you. So I will upload it. Remember, you can change. You are changing your transformer. We all transform. People are transforming left and right. You're seeing it in action. Okay, but anyway, love you all. Look for this image on my YouTube channel. Follow me on YouTube. Please support me and follow me on YouTube. Follow me on TikTok and follow me on Patreon. And we will see each other soon. And we'll go from there. If you want me to continue reading from this book, again, The Mystery of the Crystal Skulls by Chris Morton and Cerie Louise Thomas. Love. Peace.